Yo, what is going on YouTube? It is your boy GZTV. I feel a little bit under the weather. Sorry about my laundry and stuff in the background, but man, we're here to talk about the 2009 American black comedy drama film written and produced by Judd Apatow, co-produced by Apatow Productions and Madison 23 Productions, and starring the likes of Adam Sandler, Seth Rogen, and Leslie Mann, with Eric Bana, Jonah Hill, and Jason Schwartzman in supporting roles. We have funny people, and it is kind of insane to think that there is a Seth Rogen and Adam Sandler movie out there that I'm not all the way familiar with, but here we are, man. Funny people. Comedy about some stand-up comedians. How cool is that? That's a very interesting, very unique outlook. I've never really seen a comedy about stand-up comedy before. Interestingly enough, these two both started their careers in stand-up comedy, picking up early gigs before hitting Hollywood. So this is kind of cool. You know, there's obviously a lot of relatability there. They have experience, and they had a lot of part of molding this into a really good comedy film. Also, obviously, the beautiful Leslie Mann, who we know from movies like 40-Year-Old Version, is in this film. Jonah Hill, I think she was in Knocked Up as well. Jonah Hill and his Superbad era, love that he is here. That was literally, like, he made this movie, he was in this movie at the time that Superbad came out. Awesome. Great cast. Another solid comedy film from Judd Apatow, who is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, comedic director of all time. Not his best film, but definitely got some laughs out of me, and it is also a film for once that my dad also wasn't familiar with, so it was a treat for both of us to kind of get a first experience watching this together. Just another film I can credit Mr. Sandler for out of so many, and I don't think we've even seen all of his legendary films or reviewed them on this channel, at least not in the comedy world, so let's get to our set. So getting into the premise, love the premise. Recently learning that he has a fatal disease, comic George Simmons, played by the legendary Adam Sandler, spots a struggling performer named Ira, played by Seth Rogen, and decides to kind of become his mentor, and these two develop a relationship throughout the film. The men become close friends as George teaches Ira the art of stand-up comedy, and Ira helps George define his legacy, you know, helping him write some of his sketches, write some of his jokes, all this stuff. When an old flame, Laura, played by Leslie Mann, reappears and the disease goes into remission and George realizes he's not gonna die, George gets a chance to reevaluate his life and figure out what is truly important to him. Now he's kind of juggling all of these things, and that's where the film kind of takes you. Does he want to fully pursue this comedy thing with the help of his running mate Ira, or does he want to focus on this girl that he let get away due to some mistake, due to him cheating? Which one does he want to do? He damn near has to pick one or the other. Some interesting stakes here, and it all boils down to a few decisions that the famous comedian has to make, and obviously, you know, this is very much like a Adam Sandler biography in a sense. Obviously he didn't have like a disease or anything, but he's gone through the fame and he realizes you have to balance things. Will he make the correct decision, or will his life post-disease continue to eat him alive? You will have to watch the film to find that out. You know how it goes, the good, the bad, the okay, give it a review, so let's get into the good. To start off, Adam Sandler, obviously as George Simmons, is such an awesome character, and it should come as no surprise that Sandler portrays this character nearly perfectly. He's one of the greatest actors of all time. And obviously, you know, George Simmons, the character in itself, is a very unique character even for a comedy film. Obviously, we've seen the whole only have X amount of time to live, so we must act fast type of situation, but just the way George deals with it is so unique to me, and it was a very interesting take on such a trope. Obviously, it seems he has been out of the comedy world for a while, but now his life is on the line, and not only does he want to give it all he's got for his fans, he wants to make time to make amends in his personal life and fulfill some things, and that's a really cool element of this movie. He almost has this Joker-esque cynic to him as well through this process, like a dark humor, just laugh off the pain and provide some satire for his fans, telling them he hates them, I won't miss this, and that's such a fun mix for a character. He's got everything you need out of a stand-up comedian, he has everything you need for a comedic character. Also the voice changes and just the dynamic with him and Ira giving each other shit throughout the film. That is something you would obviously expect comics to do when interacting with each other, but I think those are some of the funniest moments in this movie. Just the roast they have with each other, you know, talking about dick sizes. It's obviously very immature humor, but it works really, really well in this movie. I actually dig the silliness within this movie, and man, there are some funny moments in here. Usually I'm not for the goofy comedy, I'm not that type. I think they do it really well. Laura making fun of her husband's accent just to get right back with him anyway. That's fucking hilarious.
Oi, nothing's going on around here. It's completely innocent. I let you read Jamaican?
The whole doctor scene with the guy sounding like a James Bond villain. I mean, just petty stuff like that really does the trick for this movie. And Seth Rogen always does a bang-up job, obviously, of playing this nerdy loser, not much going on in his life type of trope. We saw that with Knocked Up and so many more movies that he has been in. And man, this film just has the Judd Apatow flavor. Reminds you of so many of the films he has done, and not just because of the cast, but just the style of humor and that I've grown to love from him throughout a lot of the movies we have talked about on this channel. I also like how this film doesn't necessarily rely on super graphic, raunchy, sexual humor as much. There are a lot of dick jokes and whatnot, but nothing super ridiculous like I've seen in some of his films and some of other comedy films. I think Ira's roommates do a decent job in this film, as well. A lot of really dope side characters, and I think the characters all mesh really well. Like, your cock is huge type of stuff from Adam Sandler to me was so funny. I liked the dick jokes, it's funny, and it didn't feel like they were doing too much. Now, obviously that humor's a little dated, people don't really make dick jokes as much anymore, but it was fun. Despite how funny and lighthearted in nature the character can be also with George Simmons, you also really feel for him as he tries to navigate through life when the clock is ticking, There are some genuine moments in this movie, there are some sympathetic moments, and you can tell Adam Sandler put his all into some of these scenes. This movie can be funny for the most part, but it can also flip the switch into the serious mood, like the Thanksgiving speech from Sandler had such an impact. That's one of the more memorable scenes in this entire movie. I'm not even a huge stand-up comedy fan. Like, I'll watch Kill Tony and I'll watch some sets from like Shane Gillis and the likes of that, but this really gravitated me towards the culture and really kind of helped me to start to understand some stuff. Cool RZA cameo was in here. He was hilarious in the auto scenes. Mark was funny too, because obviously he was a douche. I'm just talking about characters one by one here. Obviously he was a douche, but he was funny while being a douche, and this movie has very conscious humor in that way. I liked pretty much all of the characters, like even Randy, like this like Middle Eastern Indian, whatever you call it, comedian, who apparently has this like loud, it doesn't mean you're funny comedian trope, which adds to kind of my liking, my gravitation towards that culture.
Fuck that crowd in the ass. Yeah. Just awesome. Just fucking BAM! Crowd me. BAM! Crowd me. My stand-up's my dick. Bang!
Really well utilized cast, really good movie. Let's move on. Moving on to the bad, I tried to think of stuff that is inherently a bad, but I don't think I can with this movie. There's nothing bad about this movie. I really like this movie, and it's so awesome to find a comedy movie that is so A-list on paper that is not hailed critically. I think that's great. That's really all I have to say for the bad. Sorry. Getting into the okay, I have this complaint about a lot of movies. You guys have seen my prior reviews when I talk about Dune, when I talk about Avatar. I don't like long movies. Keep it 2 hours or shorter and I'm gonna be a fan of your film. Some movies, sure, maybe like the Batman, there's a couple exceptions, the Avengers movies, but this movie, a comedy should never go over 2 hours, I don't think. It's not a huge deal, but there's probably about 15 to 20 minutes of fluff throughout in terms of attempted reconciles that got a little annoying after a while. Just keep on like hitting your head against the wall, like, let's get back together, let's rekindle our friendship or our relationship. Also, Laura all of a sudden falling back in love with George made little to no sense, if I'm being honest with you. I get her husband also cheats and she was seeking someone that was different from George. Didn't find that, so might as well go back to the celebrity, I get that, but it seemed like they were pretty well off as well. It seemed like, what's his name? I can't think of the guy's name. I forgot about him, the dude with the Australian accent, even though I liked that character. But it seemed a little sudden for that to happen in this movie. Similar to Groundhog Day, I had the same kind of complaint where they have the romance story, they attempt to go for it with a comedy film, and they just kind of do it a little too abruptly with, again, no premonition, no really build up to that. Yeah, it just sort of happened quickly, which is crazy because this film spans for nearly 2.5 hours, so you would have thought maybe introducing her earlier on into the film as this past lover wanting to reconcile would have made it a little bit better. And they talked on the phone like, I don't want to get back with you, all this stuff, and then boom, a flip switches and all of a sudden she wants to get back with him. Logically, in terms of the writing, that just didn't make a lot of sense. And also, one more thing, with what we got with Superbad, hopefully I get to review that film soon because I've seen it so many times. I kind of wish that Jonah Hill was more involved with the George and Ira plot. If those three ran in a tandem and went on these runs and did these comedy shows instead of just Ira and George, I don't necessarily think it would have made the movie better, but it definitely would have added to the comedic relief, and I think that would have been a cool idea to explore. So getting into the review, I think the film does well as a comedy overall. I think it is a good to a great film. I don't think it compares to other films of the genre. I will say Groundhog Day is probably better to me just because of how iconic it is, and comparison can ruin things. I know I hate to kind of do that every time I review a comedy film, but I really appreciate this film. I won't forget it. It's a very unforgettable movie. Such a great serious premise that has a dark mixed with optimistic humor, and it worked so well with this movie. Obviously, Adam Sandler, again, is one of the greatest actors of all time, and the role he plays just proves that. It's just a fun journey, really, and all the shenanigans. It's just an adventure to go through this with Sandler's character. It's a really, really fun movie to go through, and the dynamic he has with Ira and the ability to flip the switch in terms of mood, I really commend this film for that, because not a lot of comedy films have that heart, and that emotion and that aspect of a film is going to make me like it that much more. It's a pretty underrated comedy flick, so if you haven't seen it, it is definitely a must watch. And again, man, Sandler and Ira, really awesome. Seth Rogen and Adam Sandler, that will never not work. You know, they've been in so many movies together. Can't really think of the other ones, but man, this is awesome. Obviously, it doesn't really get boring throughout. I'm gonna go ahead and give it an 8 out of 10 though. I gotta get going with this video. I'm out, guys. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It is an 8 out of 10. I would say, I mean, that's alarmingly amazing on my tier list. So I really, really enjoyed this film. It's great. I would watch it again over and over again. I think it's awesome. Judd Apatow, absolute fucking genius in the comedy world. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. I'm out, man. We're gonna probably do a Jason Tatum video somewhere down the line. I'm kind of sick right now and kind of winded, so hopefully I don't sound like that in the video, but I'm like out of breath, but peace.